was now come to decide, and the legatees proposed to put the question to the vote, but the arbitrators refused. They then proposed to withdraw the question and decide it themselves. The arbitrators again refused, and obedient to the inspiration of Baron L., who continued to complain, they reserved themselves the judgment of the affair, which they delivered in the following terms: we, the above named arbitrators and referees, by virtue of the powers above enumerated, pronounce in order 1, that half the effective of the estate of Napoleon Bonaparte shall be reserved and kept at the disposal of the son of the testator. 2, etc. 3, etc. 4, that as the dispositions of the testator exceed the amount of the available portion of his estate, the reduction of the legacies be made conformable to Article 926 of the Civil Code in the proportion of the amount of their legacies, au marque Lefranc, amongst all the legatees, without distinction, that nevertheless, taking into consideration the motives of the appeal made by the majority of the legatees of St. Helena, and only in case the munificence of the heir should induce him to relinquish his hereditary portion in favor of the legatees in order to fulfill the intentions of the testator and discharge his obligations, the distribution be made after a proportional reduction for the payments of the debts, so as to complete the payments in full of the legacies of the said legatees of St. Helena, and the remainder will be divided amongst the other legatees of the testament of the fourth codicil in the proportion of their respective legacies, that the pensions of Messrs. S and P and the temporary pension of Mr. Antommarchi be payable by the legatees, viz. To Mr. S at the rate of etc., to Mr. P at the rate of etc., and to Mr. Antommarchi an annual sum of 3,000 francs, until Her Majesty the Archduchess Maria Louisa shall undertake to fulfill the last wishes of the testator by granting him a pension. The present judgment, signed in duplicate, will be deposited amongst the records of the Tribunal de Première Instance sitting at Paris, in order to place the parties in a situation to be able to request its judicial confirmation, and also with Monsieur Bertrand, attorney to the estate, in order that the legatees may have the means of referring to it, done at Paris in the residence of the Duke of Bassano, one of the arbitrators, the 16th May, 1823. Signed, Count Daru, Duke of Bassano, Calancourt, Duke of Vicenza. This extraordinary sentence was generally disapproved of. Its provisions were blamed, and motives were assigned for it. Discussions and misunderstandings prevailed. All the passions were aroused. When General Montsalon renounced the benefit of the decision by the following letter: Paris, June 12, 1823, having seen the judgment of arbitration pronounced on the 16th of May by the Duke of Bassano, the Duke of Vicenza, and Count Daru, with respect to the liquidation of the estate of the Emperor Napoleon, I declare that I persist in the opinion expressed in my letter of 3rd June, 1823, to the arbitrators, and will not enjoy any preference of entire payment that might be onerous to my co-legatees. I consequently renounce the benefit that would result to me from the execution of that article of the said judgment, which orders that in case the munificence of the heir should induce him to abandon his hereditary portion in favor of the legatees, the payment of the legacies of St. Helena should be first completed upon the division of that hereditary portion to Montsalon. This act of disinterestedness was greeted and applauded, and put an end to all discussions. The legatees were restored to the sentiments which had united them, and I resumed my studies. They are preferable to arbitration and lawsuits.